Welcome to Business and Finance here on Equa Television International. I am Rachel Tanzi. Now, starting with revenue generation and allocation, the FAAC have allocated different funds to the federal government, the states, and then the local government council. And then we would like to see the breakdown of exactly what was generated for the month of April and then what was disbursed to the federal government, the states, and then the local government areas. Now, this revenue includes stationary revenues. We're looking at other levies. We're looking at VATs, and then we are looking at derivations, and then what states got different derivations for oil producing states, and then for states that are largely into mineral productions and all of that. And then the Federal Account Allocation Committee has shared the sum of 1.208 trillion as revenue for April among the federal, state, and local government council. Now, this communique issued by the committee said that the 1.208 trillion naira total distributable revenue comprised of stationary revenue 284.716 billion naira and value added tax revenue of 466.457 billion naira. It also comprised electronic money transfer levy revenue of 18.024 billion naira and exchange difference revenue of 438.884 billion naira. Now, this is for April, and that was not the total revenue generated. That this is what was shared among the federal government, state, and local government. We are looking at the revenue to be at 2.192 billion naira. That was what was available at the end of the month of April. Now, total deduction of cost of collection is 80.517 billion naira. Total transfers, interventions, and refunds is 903.479 billion naira. Now, gross statutory revenue of 1.233 billion naira was received for the month under review. This was higher than the sum of 1.017 billion naira received in the month of March by 216.282 billion. Now, the gross revenue available from VAT of the month of April was 500.920 billion naira, which is lower than 549.698 billion naira available in March by 400. So we're looking at a difference of 48.77 billion naira. Now, from the 1.208 trillion distributable revenue, the federal government received 390.412 billion naira. State government received 403.403 billion naira, and the LGCs received 293.816 billion. Now, this is taking it the total sum of 120.45 billion. Now, we have 13% of mineral revenue was shared to the benefiting state and derivation revenue. Now, on the 284.716 billion distributable stationary revenue, we have the federal government receive 112.148 billion naira. The state government received 56.883 billion naira, and the LGCs received 43.855 billion naira. Now, for the sum of 71.830 billion, that is 13% of mineral revenue, was shared to the benefiting state as derivation revenue. The federal government received 69.969 billion, the state government received 233.229 billion, and the LGCs received 163.260 billion from the 466.457 billion distributable VAT revenue. Now, this is what the government got from the VAT revenue. We've seen that of the statutory revenue, and now let's look at what was gotten from EMTL, that's the electronic money transfer levy. A total sum of 2.704 billion was received by the federal government from the 18.024 billion EMLTL. The state government received 9.012 billion, and then the LGCs received 6.308 billion. Now the federal government received 205.591 billion naira from the 438.884 billion exchange difference revenue. Now this is the exchange difference revenues, and it was 438.884 billion naira. Now federal government received 205 billion, the state government received 104 billion naira, and the LGCs received 80.39 billion. And the sum of 48.620 billion, 13% of mineral revenue, was shared by the benefiting state as derivation revenue. Now, according to the COMNIC, oil and gas royalties, companies' income tax, excise duty, petroleum profit tax, AMTL, CET levies increased significantly. However, on the other side, we have import duty and VAT, that is our VAT, value added tax, decreased significantly. So we are seeing a rise in oil royalties, company income tax, excise duty, petroleum profit. That is despite seeing that certain excise duties was reduced. We saw over 200 that was reduced by the president to give a favorable business environment, and we saw how there was complaint left, right, center from reps, from lawmakers saying, you know what, this tax waiver is a little bit much. Despite all of that, we are seeing that excise duty still generated a significant amount of revenue. We are seeing petroleum profit tax, and we are seeing the electronic money transfer levy getting a significant amount of revenue, and there's no drop or reduction. And no wonder, with all on or by all means, Nigerians are not wrong to say, you know what, we are not going to accept the cyber security levy. Looking at how much is being generated just from electric money transfer, so the federal government are generating so much revenue just from the transactions you have every single day on your phone. As long as it's electronical, there is a lot of revenue, and we are seeing that there's no decrease so far, but a significant amount of increase when it comes to electronic money transfer levies. And then we also have CET levies also at the top of the generation of revenue for the month of April, while import duty and then VAT reduced. We're going to see why, because finally the Central Bank of Nigeria have decided to reduce the import duty. We saw how outrageous it was at the beginning of the year, how it was difficult for importers and all of that, but now we are seeing that it has reduced. So no wonder we are seeing that import duty and the value added tax have reduced significantly. We now know the factors that affected it directly. Now we are going to inflation, and it is rising. It is possible, by the way, for us to have our inflation remaining stagnant at the position where it is. But month on month, we keep seeing that the inflation, the overall general inflation, keeps increasing, and also food inflation is also going high. And this other inflation, we're looking at housing, health, food, and all of that. These are all the other increase in inflation that is making the headline inflation go as high as 33.69%, which is very significantly high. We are looking at over 0.49% points increase from what was recorded previously of 33.20% at the month of March. So we're looking at the inflation rate for the month of April. Now, comparing year-on-year data, the inflation rate in April 2024 was 11.47 percent points higher than in April 2023, where it stood at 22.22%. This indicates that the headline inflation rate has risen significantly over the past year. This is a very significant increase. We can even call it outrageous. Additionally, on a month-to-month basis, the inflation rate for April 2024 was 2.29%, which is 0.73% lower than the 3.02% recorded in March 2024. This suggests that the rate at which price increase in April 2000 was slower than the rate in March 2024. So we are seeing that certain things are affecting this inflation, and sometimes it's slower and sometimes it's higher. But we are looking forward to a more stagnant standing inflation as it is now. Then we can be able to see that the prices of goods are at a range or within a level that there's no fluctuation, and then we'll be able to, be able to maintain a specific standard of living for a period of time. And then when eventually there is another rise in inflation, we should look at a percentage that is less than 0.49% within just a short period of a month. NPC meets again, which is very, very important as inflation has risen again. And we know that for the tight monetary policy in which we are operating in at the moment, we saw that the CBN directly have said that there is nothing much they can do about the NPR as long as inflation keeps going high. There must be MPC meeting, and of course, there must be a review of the NPR in the question in the country. Now, the question or the challenges that the MPC must answer is the fact that the NPR may see another policy rate increase. Now, manufacturers borrowing at 35%. Now, we all know that this is the rate from the Central Bank of Nigeria. What are the commercial banks giving to consumers directly? That is, we're looking at market house manufacturers, we're looking at different business owners, and we are seeing it at 35%. Money supply doubles in 24 months despite restraint, high cost of borrowing pushing up price, worsening employment, and then we have inflation up 2% since last meeting. Members note point to prolonged high. So these are all the things that the MPC have to look into it and say, what is the way forward? Since the last MPC meeting, we are looking at an inflation going up 2%. So what percentage, what point base now will the NPR go up at by the end of this meeting, which is going to be a 2-day meeting? And it's the 295th NPC meeting, and then we'll just have to see what will it be at the end of the day, looking at previously what the last NPR was. Now, at the past 2 years, a rate cut is not an option, even though the broader economy thinks it is time to consider that. With the headline inflation in near a 3-decade high of 33.7%, the Monetary Authority is not expected to moderate the 2-year-old monetary tightening, which has raised the anchor interest rate from 11.5% to 24.75%, or 115%. Yes, we can see as at the last MPC meeting, the NPR was at 24.75%. Looking at inflation from the last meeting up to now at 2% high, what will be the new NPR by the end of this meeting? In the past 2 years, inflation has doubled from 16.82% in April 2022 to 33.7% in last month. Assuming an increasing function of the interest rate contrary to expectation, thus fall the efficiency of the tightening campaign and call for restraint. However, we have the central bank arguing that without this tight monetary system or regulation, we are going to see the inflation rate going higher than what it is. Although there's a lot of argument around it that no, it could be more flexible and better, and then we will be able to still see an inflation and even the NPR not as high as it is. But then we have the CBN saying we are not going to lose our monetary environment. It's going to be very tight as it is currently. Now we see where the inflation is just directly affecting what the NPR will be, and then of course the MPC totally in charge of what will happen next. How many base points? In the last MPC meeting, we saw over 200 base point increase for MPR. How many base point are we going to look at this time around? Looking at a 2% inflation increase from the last MPC. Manufacturing export income drops. It's not new news for us that the manufacturers have been complaining concerning certain factors around production and now export over the years, and looking at how the economy has been so far so good, from fuel subsidy removal to electricity tariff hike, and then we can talk about floating the currency, where of course the exchange rate will affect the importation. How much will be the cost of production, looking at what will be used to import. And also we saw forex um scarcity, where manufacturers are not finding it easy to access money for transactions, most especially when it comes to raw materials, knowing that we depend a lot on imported raw material. Now, we are seeing that our quest as a country to diversify foreign exchange earnings away from oil is not feasible at the moment, because manufacturing export has plunged 116% to 778.4 billion naira from the 2.1 trillion naira height reached in 2019. So we are depreciating. We are seeing a massive decrease compared to what we've made in the previous years. In the year 2019, we made over 2 trillion naira revenue from export, and now we are down to 778 billion naira. That is massive. And then, whether we like it or not, it means that our goal of diversifying our economy and turning our face away from oil a little bit is not feasible anytime soon, because we are supposed to record more and more growth when it comes to manufacturing export. We know that we need more finished goods out there. Now, the trend since 2019 has been downwards, recording significant decline to 960.7 billion, although attributed to COVID-19. And I know that even the world economy is still trying to recover from COVID-19, because we can see that from 2.1 trillion naira after 2019, 2020 was 960.7 billion. However, the concern is, despite the fact that the world is trying to recover from COVID, yes, economy is still struggling. We have unemployment due to COVID. We still have businesses that are still trying to stand their ground, because when you look at it, growth to be seen consistently need years and years of dedicated work. And whether we like it or not, COVID-19 got 2 years out of the economic cycle of active activity. So yes, some businesses are still struggling. However, if in 2020 with COVID we were able to get 960 billion, it is a massive decline from 2.1 trillion naira. How are we now in? Now, let's not making this clear. This is a 2023 report. We've just started. We are well far into 2024. We're looking at half of the year almost well spent. However, this is a comprehensive report for the year 2023, what manufacturers saw in the export and the market for that year. So now the thing is, if in 2020, despite COVID-19, we were able to see 960.7 billion naira, then how are we in 2023 post COVID, where we're supposed to be recovering a little bit? We are seeing an amount that is lower than what we got during the COVID-19 period, and we are looking at 778.4 billion naira. Now, this only shows the fact that we have many other factors in play, and manufacturers have been growing since the last quarter of the year, and so far so good. Even for 2024, the light have not been green yet for manufacturers, as many other factors are in play, and we can overemphasize how tariff hikes left, right, center is affecting manufacturers in the country. And if production is low, it means automatically export will be low. You have to have goods to export, and when you do not have that, you are going to see a massive reduction in your revenue. Now we are seeing that this is a significant drop of over 24% as at the year 2023 from 82% of 2019. Much needs to be done. A lot of policies need to be looked in and need to be reviewed. We are still seeing organizations out there saying no to electricity tariff hike. We've had the presidency saying no going back on oil subsidy removal. However, what is the way forward to make sure that manufacturers thrive? We've just seen what the allocations from the FAAC was for the country, and we see what manufacturing have been able to contribute to the revenues that were able to be disbursed for the movement, the growth, and the running of the country. So it is very, very important to see that manufacturers are not lagging behind, and something is significantly done to see that we are in post-COVID. If in COVID we had better profits, then we should have better profit when there's no longer COVID, and we should be able to see a better marketing atmosphere or an environment for our manufacturers for the year 2024. When it comes to business, the year is still young and we still have a long way to go before we can say what precisely will be the outcome for manufacturers for the year 2024. Now, our POS operators, which of course are the new ATMs in Nigeria, are being asked to go and register by CAC, and they are having July 7 as a deadline. We are having a POS operators or agents saying that they are not supposed to register, but it's only logical. You are a business that has profit. If a bank should create an outlet where there is a dispensing ATM, they don't have to register because now you just go and carry out your transaction. But wherever there is a transaction, you register under this microfinance bank or money, fast money deposit banks, and all of that, and then you are making profit and generating revenue from your business. Even if you're just under an umbrella in nowhere, you are supposed to register, because by virtue of laws, rules, and regulation in the country, you are a business and you are expected to register with the CAC. It's not only about tax, but it's for the safety of the business environment, your business, the banks, and then also consumers alike. So we have the Corporate Affairs Commission, that is the CAC, and the financial technology companies, that is the fintechs, have agreed to a 2 months timeline to register their merchants and agent bankers, better known as the POS operators. Now, the commission issuing a deadline of July 7th said the registration aligns with legal requirements and the directives of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The agreement was reached when Hussaini Magaji, Registrar General of the CAC, met with some fintech companies in Abuja. The meeting had the representative of OPay, Monba, PalmPay, Paystack, Fairmoney, MFB, and then MoneyPoint, and then TC. These are most of the popular small money deposit banks and all of that, and the microfinance bank. Precisely, these are the major ones we know in the country. There are many alike, but these are the ones that we do know, and we transact with them virtually every single day. It stressed that the action is equally backed by Section 861, Sub 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, at the CAMA 2020, as well as the 2013 CBN guideline on agent banking. So yes, if you are a POS operator out there, go and register with the CAC. It is important, it is mandatory, it is lawful. Nobody is tampering with your right as a citizen or as a small business owner in the country. You are expected to, because you are a business making profit out there. So it is expected for you to register. If we want to grow as a country, then you should be law abiding to these policies guiding our monetary transactions in the country. We know very well that the new Naira design was for unification of our currency. We also know that the floating of the naira was designed to unify our currency in the sense that we always had two different exchange rates from the parallel market and then the official market, the parallel market known as the black market or where we know as Bermuda change. And then we are now seeing that this in a lot of way has been abandoned. Now it might not be abandoned directly, but looking at some factors around it, we can't help but say that this unification policy have been thrown away. First of all, we are seeing that we are using both the old and the new naira side by side, which is not expected of us because the aim is to reduce the regulation of funds out there. So if we have both new and old currencies out there, then we might still be looking at more money flowing out than in the coffers of our banks. Also, we are seeing that there is now floating. The CBN is not in control of our exchange of our exchange rate, where we are at the liberty that is importers and exporters precisely are at the liberty of deciding what our exchange rate will be at the end of the day. And then now we have also seen that once there was a ban on bureau de change operators, now they are back in transacting directly with the central bank, which the banning of this the BDCs transacting direct with with the CBN was to make sure that there was no diversification when it comes to our exchange rate. But now we are seeing that the CBN is back in business directly with BDCs operators. So automatically, when we look at certain factors around what is happening now, the monetary policies that the Central Bank of Nigeria is putting in place, we can say that for sure the unification policy is being thrown away gradually. And we are again starting to see a massive difference in the exchange rate between the parallel market and the official market. Keeping our fingers crossed, we will see where that leads us to regarding the value of our currency. If we will eventually, with the measures taken by the Central Bank of Nigeria, see a unified exchange rate. And lastly, import duty rates have dropped. We are seeing why the FAC allocation when it comes to the revenue, why import duty was low, because finally I believe that the Central Bank of Nigeria heard the cry of importers, where we were seeing a rate of as high as 1,500 naira to a dollar when it comes to import duty. But now the Central Bank of Nigeria have finally dropped it to 1,100 naira to a dollar for our importers. So what this means is that eventually the clearance fee that we saw for certain cars will definitely go low, and then the fleets of abandoned cars that was at the airport littering the whole, the seaport rather, that was littering all of the seaport, and we saw port authorities complaining, will begin to drastically reduce as now importers will be able to clear and have access to their goods. And not only for the importers, we are looking at consumer, where once upon a time, still in a time like now, luxury cars are becoming luxurious in a way that even a car that a common man should be able to afford have become a car that looks like for somebody that is earning so much when it comes to the economy as it is now. So hopefully we will start having our cars going back to an affordable price for a common Nigerian to be able to have access to it. Thank you for staying to the end with me today on business and finance. Till I come your way next time, goodbye.